Good afternoon. So now I'm going to present you my final project, which is about what affects the percentage of getting a stroke. So my objective is to discover the relationship between stroke and other criteria such as age, heart disease, average blood glucose concentration, and BMI, and etc. My hypothesis is that the probability of getting a stroke will be influenced by criteria that I will go through later on. So some adjustments that I've done to my original dataset. I standardized my dataset for BMI, average glucose level, and age. And standardization is a technique in data analysis to make variables come more comparable by adjusting them to have a similar range of distribution. So, quick background knowledge. What is stroke? A stroke is a medical condition that occurs when the blood supply to a part of the brain is interrupted or significantly reduced, preventing brain tissues from getting the oxygen and nutrients it needs. And some common symptoms are sudden numbness, difficulty speaking, vision problems, the loss of balance, dizziness, sudden severe headache, and also a lot more. Yeah. So first I plotted a heat map to find the general trend in my data. And according to the heat map, we can see on the bottom column, we can see that here is all the correlation between stroke and other variables such as age, hypertension, heart disease, average glucose, and so on. So we can see that the variable that has the highest correlation with stroke was age, and then there's hypertension, heart disease, average glucose level. And then from the heat map, we could also find the correlation between different variables that's not stroke. For example, age and BMI has a quite relatively high correlation compared to other correlations, even though it's actually not as high, but still it's the highest out of the entire heat map. And so then I went to plot a scatter graph that compares like multi-variables against stroke. For example, age and BMI here. So we can see that as age increase, even though it's at low BMI, there's still people with stroke, and stroke is in orange color, and people that don't have stroke is in the blue color. And then on the next part is average glucose level versus the BMI by stroke, where it doesn't show a much trendy result, since even no matter how average glucose level increases or decreases, there's still pretty much the same people that has like stroke or no stroke. So yeah, it's pretty even. You can see this side might be a little bit higher, but still the distribution was like quite untrendy. And then finally is the average glucose level versus age by stroke, and it's pretty much the same. As age increases, there's more people getting stroke, but here as average glucose increases, there's also more people getting stroke. So we can see that age is actually a very dominant variable out of my entire data set. So since the heat map showed the correlation between stroke and age was like pretty high, or like the highest, so our first step is definitely to check out age. So first I plotted a histogram on the top left corner to find the number of people in the range of age. So we can see that there's actually more people that has the age of around 55 to 57, 60 years old. And then it kind of decreases and then increases, so there's like more people that has older age. But our highest age, around 82, was actually lower than those people that has like 50s, that's in the 50s and 60s. So then I looked at the bottom left corner is the histogram of number of people in different age that has stroke. So we can see that as age increase, there's more people that has stroke. So it currently kind of proves my hypothesis that age will kind of affect show like correlation with stroke. So then on the top right corner, I plotted a regression for the scatter graph of people in different age that has stroke. So I also grouped my data. And then what the results I got was actually pretty surprising. I got the R squared value of 0.056, which was extremely low compared to like other results. And even though, but we can still see like the rough trend of the scatter graph that as age increases, there's like more people getting stroke. So then I looked at heart disease, and I plotted a pie chart of out of all the people with stroke, how many that has heart disease and how many that doesn't. So here, orange part represents the people that has stroke. Oh, sorry, people that has heart disease, and the blue part represents that people that doesn't have heart disease. So we can see that out of all the people with stroke, there's 82% of them has heart disease, and then only 18% of them that doesn't have heart disease. And next, I looked at average glucose level, which was also one of the decent correlation from the heat map. So on the top left corner, there's the linear regression between standardized average glucose level and stroke. But the result I got, the R squared value I got for this was 0. So this kind of proves that there is no correlation between standardized average glucose level and stroke. But we can still see like there's like a trend where there's actually more people that doesn't have stroke, and then even at the highest average glucose level I've got in my data set, they don't tend to have stroke. Like if you go apart to like 2.2, that's like the highest glucose level for people that has stroke already. So I don't think it will actually like influence stuff. So since since average glucose level and stroke doesn't have a stronger correlation, so I looked for the correlation between age and average glucose level. Since age has a higher correlation with stroke than average glucose level, so then on the top right corner I plotted the linear regression between average glucose level and age. But the result I got was also quite surprising, where the R square value was actually still pretty low, with 0.056. But we can see that there's like a trend of, as age increases, average glucose level tend to also increase. And on the bottom left corner, I also checked out the correlation between BMI and average glucose level, and then the result I got was that there is only like a shorter correlation, but the R square value was 0.031, which is still pretty low, and shows that average glucose level have like a higher correlation than with BMI. And since it has more correlation with age, and age has a higher correlation with stroke, so this I can actually like make a hypothesis that average glucose level won't directly affect how the percentage of you getting stroke, but still it has some sort of effect, but it's not like significant, or it's not like as direct as age. Then I looked at BMI. On the top left corner is the linear regression between standardized BMI and stroke. The R square value I've got was also 0, so this shows that there is no correlation, low to none basically. And then just by looking at the scatter graph itself, there's actually more people that doesn't have stroke, and even on a very high BMI, even close to 3.5, which is the highest value we got, there's actually no people have stroke. So this shows that stroke and BMI doesn't really have the correlation. So then again, I start to look at the correlation between age and BMI, since age, as I've said before, age has a stronger correlation. And then the result I got for the R squared value was 0.111, which is actually okay and quite decent, but still very low, technically like very low value. But we can see that age doesn't really affect BMI, or since when you look at those people with those highest BMI, they tend to have a younger age of like 20s and 30s and 40s. But when you look at the age of 80s, they're more likely in a healthy range or like a normal range. And here are some other variables that I've looked at. On the top of the corner is the number of people from different genders. We can see that from my original data set, there's more females than males. And then, so I looked at on the top right corner is the number of female that has either no stroke and has stroke. So this is the total number of females that I've got in my data set, and then almost 96% of them don't have stroke. And then same here for males, almost 95.6 of them 9.6% of them has no stroke, and then only a small amount of them has stroke. So this kind of shows, I think it's caused of the data was actually like skewed, so it doesn't really like shows the relationship between stroke and gender. And on the bottom right was the multivariable linear regression that I've done between stroke, standardized BMI, standardized age, and standardized average glucose level. And the result I got was that the R squared value was 0.062, which is still a little bit higher, but still a very low value, which shows that there ain't no strong correlation between them. And something interesting that I've discovered when I doing my final project, this was actually also something that actually put me into a problem. I find it quite surprising because when I look at the people with different smoking status, uh, people that doesn't smoke has there's actually more people that doesn't smoke that has stroke than people that smokes currently or smokes formerly. But I was actually pretty surprised because according to those research that I've done, smoking will affect or tends to affect people getting stroke. Then if you smoke, you'll have a higher chance of getting a stroke. So then I wondered, why is this so to my data? And then I checked the number of people of different smoking status, which is the bar chart on the right. We can see that in my data, there's actually more people that never smoked and less people that formerly smokes, and even less for people that smokes currently. So I think this problem was caused because of my data was like skewed for the people that smokes or not. Yeah, so there was more like a confusion, but I find it quite interesting because I was actually pretty surprised back then. And my conclusion from my project is that the probability of stroke has no correlation with other criteria and diseases. Therefore, my hypothesis was rejected. And so I would like to discuss the reason that I got these data. So I think stroke is a very categorical data in my data set because it's either you get stroke or you don't. So therefore it's more like a qualitative thing, and this caused it to become difficult to be analyzed quantitatively. And after that, I've done some research and I found out that stroke can also occur naturally, even though you don't have any of those symptoms, such as high BMI, average high blood glucose, or like you don't have like heart disease. And yeah, it can just happen naturally. There's also different reasons why you will get stroke. For example, you don't get enough rest. You only sleep for like 4 to 3 hours a day, and you keep that on going for like 3 weeks or 4 weeks, and eventually, yeah, you have low immunity and stuff. And then it also will cause, because you have like a very unhealthy, unbalanced diet, and which made stroke, the probability of stroke, even harder to predict, since it makes it even more qualitative and hard to analyze in data. This also kind of explains why the R squared value for all of my regressions were incredibly low. So yeah, this is more like a prediction, or more like a qualitative thing that is very hard to predict, because if it happens, it just happens. Even though if you have done nothing wrong, you don't smoke, you don't have heart disease, you don't have high blood glucose, it will sometimes just happens. So it's hard to like predict using data sets. And that is the end for my final project. Thank you.